Good morning, everybody. We are live. Thanks for coming and sharing your time with us. If you're watching us live, I appreciate that. If you're watching this on the replay, this is awesome too. I have a very special guest. I've been afforded an opportunity that most people don't get. And I'd like to thank the Suffolk County Police Commissioner, Rodney Harrison, for allowing us to talk to him this morning. Thanks, Commissioner.
Hey, Joe. Good seeing you, my friend.
Yes, good seeing you too. I am very excited about this on so many different levels because many people, including myself, were kind of bummed about the entire investigation, how things were going. And then Commissioner Harrison takes over a little less than 2 years ago. And I like that you went to the crime scene and you made that vow. It was a pretty bold statement that you were going to make this priority number one. And here we are. So congratulations on that part. I know there's more work to do, but you need to get some kudos on that too.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you.
So under your leadership, we've gotten pretty far in this case in a short period of time. Could you tell us, how that makes you feel, kind of thing, like how you think things are going?
Yeah. So, Joe, there's a lot of people that were involved in getting us in a place where we are today, which is identifying a subject, Rex Heuremann, and being able to charge into three of the bodies that were identified on Ocean Parkway, and we're probably going to be, and there's going to be an announcement very, very shortly regarding the fourth one. Uh, and one of the things that I got to make sure that we recognize the investigators that were the ones that were doing all the work, using the different databases, seeing what we can do regarding sciences and technology to uh, track down any connection with DNA, and how we were able to get that green avalanche and match it to Rex Heuremann, who was an owner of that vehicle, and sold it to his brother back in 2014. So it was important that when I came in, Joe, that uh, I took a look at the case, see exactly where we stood, what was done, and what more needs to be done. And just when I was informed by my detective lieutenant Kevin Byrer, who really knew the case like the back of his hand, I'll say it over and over again. There were certain things about this case that I was saying to myself, this case is solvable. The people that came before me did some really good work. Is there some more work that needs to be done? 1,000%. But just that box, that octagon, uh, that area, Massapequa Park, that we were able to identify through the cell sites, and then the location in Midtown Manhattan, really put me in a place where I said that this case has a lot of legs. Uh, but what's going to be the direction regarding making sure that we have a dedicated team and investing into going forward with potentially solving this case? And that was something that I was very blessed to do, which is able to create a team of law enforcement investigators to kind of come together, work together, and have them dedicated to this case to allow us an opportunity to solve it.
Yeah, and it's an excellent job, but it needed somebody to come and put all these pieces together, including, I mean, we all know that sometimes, or most of the time, there are clues in the case files, and it's important though that people need to find those. So I watched an interview that you had done with Newsday, and you had mentioned about the New York State Police and the
Yeah.
investigator, and you mentioned, I think you actually used the gender she
Mhm.
found out some things. So I mean, this investigator in New York State Police really helped break open this case. Yes.
And it's funny, Joe. You said that I identified this investigator as she, and the reason why I did that is because I wanted to make sure that women in policing don't get the credit that they deserve sometimes, and I wanted to let it be known that a female investigator, as well as the importance of acknowledging the state police and their role, and they were never asked to come and help out with the investigation, and I'll talk about how they came to the table, but just asking them to be part of the investigation and the work by this woman investigator really gave this case some legs. And she used a database that connected that avalanche to Rex Heuremann. And a lot of people uh, hear that and they think, hey, listen, that's when the case was solved, and that's the furthest from the truth. That just allowed us to take a look at Rex Heuremann. We didn't sit here and say he was our suspect. Yet people have to understand, we got information that Rex Heuremann was a client of Amber Costello. Did not mean that he was the killer of Amber Costello and the other individuals that were identified over on Ocean Parkway. So this was something that a nice crack in the case by the investigator from state police that allowed us to take a deeper dive and a deeper look into Rex Heuremann. And then once we were able to see his lifestyle, is when we really started saying to ourselves, hey, we may be onto something here.
Right. So, this investigator kind of like gave you that wedge to break this case open in the respect of actually now focusing in on Rex or whomever. Like you said, you have his phone records and everything else. It could be lots of people that were involved in these girls. So it helps to then narrow that down.
1,000%.
So tell us a little bit about that part of the investigation. So when you get this news, right? So there's kind of a little bit of I'm sure a little bit of an excitement in the respect that you're heading in this right direction. What were some of the next steps that you had to put together in order to make sure that this was now following protocol and everything else to make sure that you built a nice tight case?
Yeah. So we had to kind of take a deeper dive into Rex Heuremann and what's his lifestyle, what's he about, and once again is working with my partner, District Attorney Ray Tierney, and using his office to get subpoenas and phone records and a host of other credit card usage, and take a closer look at his family and his workplace, and him being an architect in the city, which was reason why we had that connection in Midtown Manhattan, as well as him being a resident in Massapequa Park. Like all these things, and when he used his credit cards and his searches on Craigslist, really kind of started making that snowball into a bigger one, and turning into an avalanche of, hey, listen, we need to take a really, really not just a close look, but now we got to start saying to ourselves, hey, what else is he into? And this is something that we need to be concerned about as a department, as a law enforcement agency, regarding his actions. And is he still out there hurting people? There was a lot of different things that we had concerns with. And, that's why the task force was so instrumental, because, listen, we used the FBI to help us out with surveillance, because they had a team of investigators that could help us out with that. Getting those credit card usage and phone records and Google searches was the assistance from Ray Tierney and his team. Just having that database access that we didn't have before, which kind of got us in the right direction with the state police, helped us be able to understand the location of the vehicle and where it was. So once again, everybody working together. Once we got the avalanche connected to Heuremann, and then making sure that we take a closer look at his lifestyle and see what he's about. And once again, we saw some of his horrible way of life, and he was living this double life as well. Really kind of pushed us forward regarding the next steps of saying, all right, well, listen, now let's try to get some DNA from him. So we started doing surveillances. Then we started getting to a point where we say, well, listen, let's get the DNA. And then we did a really good job. Once again, we had to be very covert with this, and I'm sure you can understand this, Joe, regarding getting DNA from front of his house, regarding surveilling him and following him, and eventually getting some DNA off a pizza crust that he put in a garbage in Midtown Manhattan. So a lot of these things led from one thing to another thing to another thing. And listen, we had weekly meetings, and sometimes we had differences regarding what should our next steps be into how we're going to take a closer look at Rex Heuremann. But I will say this: a lot of egos were left at the door. I said this before in my initial press conference. It was just great working with the law enforcement leadership out here, and how it was all able to come together. Really was was a great thing to see and be a part of.
It's excellent. So you mentioned some of the task force. So we have the New York State Police, you have the Suffolk County Police, you have the FBI, and you have the District Attorney's Office in Suffolk County. Who else is on this team?
So we also had the sheriff's office involved as well. One of the things that we asked them to do in the beginning stages, and I know our great sheriff Earl Toulon is continuing his briefings of people that may be involved in that sex trafficking or sex worker world. But one of the things we asked coming out the gate was we asked him to start debriefing anybody during the time frame of 2007, 2008 to 2012 that may be in their custody that might have been involved in some sex work that may have any information about an engagement with somebody that talked about the Gilgo Beach murders. So they had a role as well. They assigned a supervisor who really did a nice job of doing a lot of questioning, and I believe that investigator still is doing as such. But that was the fifth piece of the team that really helped us with the whole investigation.
Yeah, it's fantastic to get all these people to work together too. As I can imagine, wasn't an easy task to do, so to speak, in regards to getting everybody involved and then delineating what role they have to do. Right? I mean, everybody's got a different role, so to speak, and you don't want to be doubling up or tripling up on efforts.
And one of the uh, organizations or departments or units that I failed to mention is the medical examiner's office and their role of collecting whatever evidence they can from the bodies back in 2010, 2011, as well as what they were able to match up with information that we were able to provide for them as well. So I didn't want to leave them out as well, but they also had a big part in putting a lot of the evidence together. And it's going to help out with the prosecution going down the road.
Right. So now you have Rex, and you have the idea that he has these burner phones. Were there a lot of records gotten back then when this case was first going on, that it's not because once it gets to a certain time frame, you're not able to get those. So was a lot of that already secured in the case file?
So yeah, and I'll talk about the case file in a second. And this is how the FBI was extremely instrumental. But we were able to extract information from the cell towers. But because they're burner phones, we don't have any way of connecting it to any individual. And the second thing that people may be scratching their head about is, well, how were we not able to connect the DNA evidence that was recovered from uh, some of the bodies? How were we not able to attach it to Heuremann? Well, you have to remember he was never arrested, so he didn't have any DNA on file. So these are the things that kind of handcuff the prior administrations from getting us to a point of being able to have a Rex Heuremann on our radar. So because he was somewhat savvy regarding how he had burner phones, and because he was never under arrest, is the reason why it took. I believe it took a while for us to identify a Rex Heuremann. But once again, it's just putting a team of investigators together, putting them in an isolated office outside of the headquarters, partnering up with the FBI and state police, and having investigators from Ray Attorney's office all coming up with investigative ideas of how we can identify potential suspects, allowed us to be in a great position and be able to eventually place Rex Heuremann under arrest and bring him into custody.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, the whole thing with the burner phones, I'm sure, sent some reverberations through the underworld about how you guys were able to put this stuff together. So we know that they're probably changing their tactics already. So just get ready for that as things move forward. So it's evident when you took over this case too that it became more of a victim and family centric kind of investigation. Can you
Mhm.
tell us about some of the rapport that you have with the family members of these victims?
Yeah. So, I had a chance to, when I first got out here, speak to a couple of the family members, let them know, hey, listen, we didn't forget about your loved one, and we're going to start a new direction with this investigation. We're going to be announcing a task force, and they were very, very, very receptive to it. I also know that the district attorney did a great job of when he came into the position. He reached out to the families as well and let them know that we're going to strengthen the investigation and look a little bit deeper into what it is that we can do better to bring justice to you as a family, as somebody who lost a loved one. So there was engagements by myself, by Ray Tierney. I will also say this, that um, my investigators throughout the time frame under the leadership of Kevin Byra throughout the last, you know, 12 years, uh, remained in constant contact with them and kept them updated with things that were going on. And once again, it was just a great feeling to be able to stand up there during the press conference, letting them know that we identified the individual involved and bring comfort, some type of comfort to the family.
Right, because communication is always the big complaint that family members have. So that's like a real important thing, and I'm glad that seems to be going forward because in previous administrations that was a complaint from a lot of the family members that there was a lack of communication, and it seems as if you guys are on the right road for that. And you kind of bring back the luster to the Suffolk County Police Department with all this stuff, and a lot of that bad stuff is seemed to be forgotten as we push forward. So that's a great thing. So you just came off a huge press conference with the attorney John Ray
Mhm.
in regards to Shannon Gilbert and
Yeah.
Rex Heuremann and maybe Karen Vagata. So it's just before we get into that, there's one thing that I'd like you to discuss in regards to the Karen Vagata about how important it is to ID these victims because here we are, right? We have people now coming forward once a name and a face was come out. Could you explain to the audience how important that is for you as the investigator?
Well, that's pretty much the makes the case. And you just take a look at the one body on Ocean Parkway. There's a couple of bodies that we still haven't identified, but one of them I'll use for example is a body that had a tattoo of a peach on her. We call her Peaches, and there was a toddler, girl toddler, with her as well that we have not been able to identify as of yet. And because we have not been able to identify, it's hard to uh, trace back our investigative steps to where she might have come from, and then going from there regarding what evidence or what investigative steps need to be done. So it's hard to start an investigation if you don't know where the body is from. So it makes things very, very difficult. Regarding Ms. Regatta, uh, we do know that there was a connection to Fire Island, and then how the skull of hers got over to Ocean Parkway is going to give us a little bit of a direction regarding what our next investigative steps need to be done. And of course, we'll go over to Fire Island and see who was around during that time frame when she was last seen, and then we can go from there regarding what needs to be done. But it, it's it helps out investigators when you know who the person is and where they're from, and then from there you can start your questioning and see what type of evidence or what might have been somebody's motive to kill somebody. So it always helps to have somebody identified and what needs to be done going forward with the investigation.
Right, and we have now people are coming forward, like this one woman who, and is the real disturbing part is that you have this detective from the NYPD that was allegedly with her and brings somebody who she thinks is Karen Vagata to the house. We're kind of up in the air in regards to the exact storyline there, but it's still something. I mean, they had his initials RW. I'm sure that by now you guys have figured out who this individual is. I don't
Yeah,
know if you
so
can. Yeah.
we do know who this person is. Once again, is this the one thing I want to share with you, Joe, and for my listeners. You know, uh, it's not credible as of yet. This is something where people have reached out to John Ray, and and Ray Turney made some statements regarding he wants people to go to law enforcement officials, and guess what? He's absolutely right. I'm in total agreement that that's the way that we want anybody that has information about anything with Rex Heuremann to go to law enforcement officials. Unfortunately, it's never that easy. And being an investigator in NYPD for close to 14 years, I have solved many cases through people going to clergy, people going to communities, people going to somebody at an educational institution, uh, a pillar uh, in the community. I mean, there's different ways that complaints come to us. I can recall somebody was a victim of a rape and didn't want to come to the police and told a clergy about the situation. Then that clergy individual, brought it to our attention, and then we were able to investigate it. So, I know there's concerns about going through a individual like a John Ray. And listen, I will echo the sentiments of the district attorney. We want people to come to law enforcement officials, but the most important thing is that there is a situation where there may be a little bit of a trust factor. And just say hypothetically, if somebody happens to be involved in something that uh, can be, say, scrutinized. Then I could sit here and talk about someone that may be a sex worker. There may be a little bit of reluctancy to come talk to law enforcement. The key thing is this: we want people to come forward and let us investigate it and find out if it is credible, and if it is, we'll go forward with the investigation and see if it's attached to Rex Heuremann or attached to somebody else that could help us identify and uh, the bodies over on Ocean Parkway and see what subjects, or if there is a subject involved with the other bodies that we're still investigating.
Right. I mean, I can understand why the district attorney, put out that memo and why you'd want that, but I kind of agree with you on this. There are so many people that well, first of all, we know that the last couple of years have been pretty bad for the police in the public view.
Yeah,
Many political views have been, it's kind of tarnished the badge a little bit,
yeah,
and people are reluctant, especially like you said, working in the the subculture has a tendency of people to shy away from the police, and now you add that distrust to it. They have to come to somebody. Let's hope they maybe do it through a Crime Stoppers or something like that. But hey, I think we can, however we get the information and that you can work on it, I think is a great idea.
and Joe, I'm in a blessed place being the commissioner of this department. There's so many phenomenal people within inside this organization, but unfortunately, there have been people in the past within this department that have tarnished the shield of the Suffolk County police officers that really do a great job. So, there has to be a little bit of understanding that things that have happened in the past, unfortunately, has hindered the ability to get people to trust us. And like I said, is the most important thing, and the message that I want to share is that we just want people to come forward. Once again, is this: we prefer for you to go to a law enforcement official, but if you choose to go to a religious institution leader or community organization or somebody else, we just the most important thing we want to hear your complaint or your incident, and then uh, let us do a appropriate investigation.
Right, and you talked about transparency when you first took over, about how transparent you want to
Yeah,
be, and you're
correct.
far from an investigation of this magnitude. I mean, the information that's been flowing in the last 18 months has been phenomenal. I don't think anybody can really say there's not enough information. I think right now people are complaining that, oh, we want more information, right? We want more stuff. So after everything else, people need to just relax as things are coming. So you did mention that the fact that you believe the Maureen Brainerd Barnes case will be added soon.
Yeah, I believe that our district attorney is going to be making an announcement within the next couple of weeks regarding the status of the DNA that was recovered from there. So we'll wait and see, and then we'll go from there.
Right. Well, that's fantastic news too. So then, once they have what we refer to as the Gilgo Four, once that's taken care of and moved aside, and then other working pieces of this case will be, I guess, moving forward at that point.
Yeah, and Joe, I'm sorry, I kind of want to circle back regarding
Sure.
something that you said regarding transparency, and I thought transparency was extremely important. That's why I played the Shannon Gilbert audio, because us holding back and not sharing it, I think that kind of hindered that trust factor. Me playing the Megan Waterman video, her at the Holiday Inn, something that we kind of held back with. I wanted to share that. We updated the website, the Gilgo Beach website. We raised the Crime Stoppers reward. I mean, I think there's so many things that uh, this task force with the law enforcement leadership all coming together, I think we were able to build a stronger level of trust and get people to understand that, well, listen, we need to work with you, especially now that we have somebody in custody. We want people to feel comfortable to come forward and talk to us. And that's why a lot of the things that we put in place that I believe made things better regarding the perception of some regarding this apartment. I think we are definitely in a better place going forward, and hopefully people will continue to give us information that can help us identify other subjects or the subject involved in this case.
Right, and I think the big positive too of your presser with John Ray was to show people out there who might be watching or paying attention, who might be working within some of these sex work, and saying, all right, you know what, these guys seem to be pretty good. Let me give it a shot. Let me come forward. I
100%.
mean,
Yes,
that's
sir.
that's the message I got.
Absolutely, absolutely. And listen, you know, uh, John has a little bit of a history when it comes to the relationship with the Suffolk County Police Department. One of the first things that I did when I got out here is I sat down with him. I wanted to see what information he had and what evidence that he was able to provide that could possibly help us with the Shannon Gilbert investigation. The one thing I don't want to do is rule it out, and I want to see if there's something that you can provide that can help us identify a subject in that case. I want to know about it. So that's just who I am. I guess that's something that I learned during my investigative experience. That we have to make sure we are partnering up and building trust with the community in order to get people to feel comfortable to come forward.
All right, so I just wanted to show you one of the comments here. It says, Joe, tell the commissioner how much we all respect him and thank him for his outstanding work. That's from
Thank you.
Defense Diaries. So
Thank you.
that's yeah, it has resonated with a lot of people. I as you know, I watch all this stuff pretty closely, and I've heard nothing but really good things. So and I know there's only a certain amount of information you can give us today because you can't do it because it's an active investigation. So I think we all understand that. So I appreciate what you can give us. So, in regards to the Shannon Gilbert case, I know you've mentioned publicly that she died a terrible accidental death, but now with this presser, we're starting to hear a little bit more information. Maybe Rex and Shannon had a thing going on, with the client kind of situation. With the right amount of information, you would feel comfortable changing the manner of death if it comes down to it.
1,000%. One of the things that we did, Joe, is we added a couple more investigators to the task force. Their job is to take in new complaints or incidents that have been brought to our attention, either through Crime Stoppers, through another law enforcement official, or it happens to be John Race, then so be it. But we're going to take a closer look at the information that people have provided to John Ray to see if there is a connection between Rex Heuremann and Shannon Gilbert. But the one thing that I want to make sure that this is very clear. I'm not ruling out anything, and if people have information that needs to be investigated, then we're going to do as such. And if I happen to step on toes and people are don't like that I'm going to entertain other complaints that come in, then it is what it is. Get out the way. We're going to investigate complaints that come in to the fullest and find out if it's credible or not. And if it's so, then we'll go further with the investigation.
Right, and from law enforcement, that's what our job is and was. I mean, just follow it up, and then you present it, and then let that in the next individual deal with that. But that's not. We don't worry about those kind of things. I know a lot of people were focused on that, and I try to explain to people, it doesn't matter what the district attorney will say or somebody else is going to say. The law enforcement has a job; it does its job, and then presents its case, and that's it. It doesn't get involved in the politics per se.
Correct. And the Suffolk County Police Department, the homicide unit, really incredible investigators. And I'm not just talking about the Gilgo Beach investigation. I'm just talking about what I've seen in the last 2 years that I've been out here. The work that they've done, the homicides that they've solved, has been absolutely incredible. But I will say this, that Suffolk County Police Department is the lead investigative agency for the Gilgo Beach Task Force, and we're going to make a decision what we're going to investigate or not. Uh, uh, Ray Cherney, who is a great partner, and I could kind of consider him like me being a quarterback and him being a wide receiver. Sometimes those two individuals, and it's a sports analogy, may not see eye to eye with certain things, but we both have the same thing in common: is we want to hold people accountable that commit crimes, especially acts of violence, or a situation where it's a serial killer. So, this is not the first time that I've had a disagreement with a district attorney. If I go back to my NYPD time, I didn't see eye to eye sometimes with Eric Gonzalez or Jarcel Clark or Melinda Katz. These are things that happen when you have people that are very passionate about keeping communities safe, and how in an investigation can go a certain direction. But the one thing I need to also understand is, listen, Ray Cherney is the one who's prosecuting Kate, and there's certain things that he may need in order for him to be successful if it goes to a point where the case goes to trial. So there's a little bit of a balancing act with this whole engagement.
Right, and both of you are professionals, so I don't anticipate any issues going that forward. I mean, like you said, the district attorney has his job, the police commissioner has his job, and it always seems to work out in the end. Whatever kind of thing. I mean, people are like, oh, this is a public dispute. I'm like, no, it's not. It's
No.
just a, you know, a way of trying to garner that information so that it could come to directly through one source, and it's I don't really see it as a big deal. People are like, oh, the harmony is kind of disrupted and his egos now. I don't think so.
Yeah. Once again, it's this between Steve Udis, Mike Broderick, Earl Toulon, Ray Cherney. We have a great relationship. There's been times where we didn't see eye to eye regarding the next steps in the investigation, but we were able to come to a happy median that allowed us to get to a place where we were able to identify a subject. And I couldn't be in a better position as a police commissioner, knowing that those individuals are my teammates, and we were able to really work hard and diligently, making sure we had the right people in place to identify Rex Heuremann.
Right. And then it also goes to show you, like, everybody, no matter what goes on, everybody's got the same goal here. And this is to put this case together and put a nice bow on it. I mean, that's basically what now the public is looking for in that respect. So I think any decision on Maureen Brainerd Barnes, I think is going to be big news.
Mhm.
And this way we can, because I think people kind of compartmentalize these things, and that's how I've tried to explain this case too, because there are different groups of these victims, and I think you need to handle it one thing at a time. And so far so good.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
So just to circle back with the Karen Vagata thing, because it could be an important case in respect of, let's just say there's one individual responsible for all these things. This might be the first case, so to speak, where this individual did something. So it's actually an important thing to make sure that you gotta get this thing rolling. But the evidence is going to be difficult to find in a case like this.
Absolutely. But if I can kind of talk about having a dedicated investigative team that could definitely go out and go by this so-called club and speak to managers and see what they say. Go out and take a closer look at the location which they went to, which is Heuermann's residence, and see if there's any connection in the vicinity during that time frame, and see if the neighbors might have heard anything or people that might have been around at that time frame. And there's a lot of investigative steps here, Joe, that need to be done to see if there is uh, some type of credible uh, statements or incidents, I'll say, that can connect this information that came into our attention through John Ray. So the one thing that I want to make sure that this is very clear. I stated this in the presser that I can't sit here and say it's credible or not. But the one thing we will do is investigate it. But you know what information, what evidence we have at this time, all we have is a statement of this person. Now we have to take a look and see if there's any substance behind it, and then we'll go from there.
Right. I mean, that's a very difficult task to do because the people who are engaging in this kind of activity might have some other secrets that they want to withhold and don't want to come forward with information, and it's a really touch and go kind of thing in regards to asking people who are into this swinging life, so to speak, to come forward and now say, "Hey, do you remember something like this?" Because they put themselves in a bad position, maybe personally.
Yeah, yeah. And that world, can explain a lot of different things. And if we find that there is some truth to it, it may hold some other people accountable as well. So, once again, I'm not going to sit here and make any statements that that there's accuracies or there's credible or truth behind this information. But shame on me, being your police commissioner, if I don't investigate it. That would be just a horrible look for this department.
Right, and John Ray said at the press conference, and it kind of, I think, went over some people's heads in regards to the media, but he mentioned about taking a deposition from Joe Brewer. Now, Joe Brewer was the individual that hired Shannon Gilbert that night that she took over. So,
Yeah,
are we like we're going to be revisiting a lot of these? I call them characters from the original,
yeah,
section. So, I mean, this opens up another kind of wing, so to speak, in this case.
yeah. John touched upon a lot of different things. Once again, is this we have to take uh, information bit by bit and then take a deeper dive into it regarding the Brewer thing and any thoughts that could come from me regarding that information being credible. I can't comment on this time, but I will say this that this is something that we will take a look at, and then we'll evaluate if there's anything behind it going into the future.
Okay, so we've spoken about things that were done, things that are being done right now. What are some of the future steps that you think this investigation could take?
So, Joe, we have a Asian male that was wearing women clothes. I would like to see, us continue to work hard and trying to identify who that individual is. I talked about Peaches and the toddler. That's something that um, we need to see who that individual is as well. And then we have the other two victims as well, Valerie Mack and Jessica Taylor, who uh, have similar ways that they were discovered in the vicinity. Possibly, and I'm gonna make sure that's the word here, possibly leads me to believe that there may be one person that's involved with both of those individuals as well. So, you know, a lot of work needs to be done. The task force is going to remain intact. We're going to add personnel to the task force. Um, Listen, this is something that we're going to continuously work on, and by not by any means are we close to the finish line. And as long as I have law enforcement officials around me that are just as passionate as I am, I think we could get the job done.
Sure. And I think you do because I mean I've heard both the sheriff speak and I've heard the district
Yeah,
attorney speak,
yeah,
and everybody's on the same page, which from our former job is kind of strange, right? Because even within our own job, people are always fighting, kind of thing. So imagine trying to get all of these individuals together and get them to agree and look at something is a phenomenal job. Because for those that are in the know about law enforcement stuff like that, this is a huge undertaking. This is
Yeah.
huge.
Yeah.
I mean, this is New York State's probably, it's going to be its most infamous case, but probably the largest investigation in New York State history.
Yeah. And once again, um, I'm blessed, just knowing that everybody was able and willing to partner up with the vision and supply personnel, which is something that I don't think was too common out here in Suffolk County. That's something that in NYPD we did on a regular basis because of the resources and things of that nature. But this was something that I believe is something different regarding making sure we have enough of our law enforcement partners working together, putting a dragnet out there over the investigation. And one of the things that people don't understand is, you know, not at one time did we have evidence that our perpetrator was from Long Island. I mean, that's the reason why I asked state police could come, because who's to say that he wasn't or she wasn't, whoever our subject was it from upstate somewhere? Yes, we had the box over in Massapequa Park. Yes, we had the box over in Midtown Manhattan. But we just because we had those boxes doesn't mean that we were able to say that the person resided in a certain area or frequent a certain location. There was certain things that we needed to make sure that all of our law enforcement partners out here were involved in, and it really was uh, great work. Everybody coming together and putting their investigative minds in a single room. And once again, is this we always didn't see eye to eye, but being able to accomplish the job and identifying one subject, but a lot more work still needs to be done.
Right. Well, it goes to show you when you have a motivated law enforcement agency and good leadership, great things can happen. So, like I said,
That's right.
that's. So we only have a few minutes left because I know you're a very busy person here. There is something that concerns me, and that concerns me is that there will be a new Suffolk County executive in 2024.
Yeah.
What's the I know there's going to be there's a possibility of change, and there's a possibility of things and derailing some of the momentum that you have put forward in this.
Mhm.
Can you kind of calm our fears in that respect, kind of thing?
Yeah. So regarding my future, I'm assuming that's where the question was going.
Yes.
Listen, I'm still. This is going to sound kind of awkward, but I'm still in discussions with my family regarding what's my next move going to be. My wife's a retired lieutenant from the NYPD. I have two daughters that are NYPD police officers. One's working in the 113 squad, the other one's working in the detective bureau, and I still have my youngest one who's playing college basketball down south, which is one of my uh, biggest passions is watching her perform on the highest level in women's basketball. So this is something that uh, I got to figure out with my family, and we'll continue discussions regarding me staying or possibly leaving. But I will say this: as long as we have a man like Ray Turney, as long as we have a man like Earl Toulon, and if there happens to be somebody that comes into the position after me, I'm sure the same efforts will be put in place, knowing that the leadership is focused on the Gilgo Beach investigation and continue to identify individuals or an individual that's maybe involved with the other bodies that were discovered over on Ocean Parkway.
Well, it's definitely understandable, and yes, that decision ultimately comes down to you. And we hope that, if given the opportunity, you stay because I think that this has
I appreciate that.
gotten this far because of you,
Thank you, sir.
and it's not because of a political decision. Because I could tell you, whoever just makes that decision, it's going to be a bad one. And
I appreciate
we
it.
want to make sure that listen, the administration. Think about the pieces of the puzzle that you had to put together, and the kind of disarray that the department was sort of in from way back when, and you were able to just make some progress with the chaos that was left behind you. And I think that is something that not many people will be able to to continue to carry that torch.
I appreciate those kind words, Joe. Thank you.
Well, Commissioner, I want to thank you for your time. I promised I would keep you to 45 minutes, and that's exactly what we're going to do.
Thank you.
I appreciate your time. I wish you the best, and I think that your future is bright. And if you decide to stay in law enforcement, and if you decide to spend that time with your family, that's a great decision too. But thank you again, and we want to just tell everybody thanks for watching. And Commissioner, you have a great holiday season coming up too, and continued luck and success in your endeavors.
Hey, Joe, thank you so much for having me. Enjoy the rest of your day.
You too. Take care, folks.